but I know that many of veterans at some point think about it, just because of everything that they're dealing with, and it's just,
Right.
I think it's just been building and building because I don't feel like myself anymore, especially with with injuries and whatnot that I'm experiencing now. Um, this year is always tough, and I always make it a point to go out there to Houston National because, truth be told, one of my Army brothers is there, and
Hmm.
he himself became one of the 22, and it was a tough time when it came to B, especially it being him. And it's just, I've never really been a real proactive person to speak out on things and just and compartmentalize the feelings because we're men, and that's what we do. But
Hmm.
because I'm starting to really get those feelings of fighting the demons off, and I have to be here. You know,
Right.
it came to be to the point where I had to ask my brother for help. Ron being a vet himself, he kind of understands some of the difficult situations, the hardships of dealing with things. Um, it's never a good time, a good place uh, to have that conversation with a loved one and tell them, that things are tough and things are getting rough,
Right.
and that obviously I need help.
Yeah,
And
and I
so,
think the support system around it is a little fractured, right?
yeah,
And of course, this is the year where, oh, this is the time of the year where we all come together to try to support. And but it's not enough. I mean, it's really how can we be better and how can we reach out and who can we talk to? There's a lot of suffering out there, and and I feel your pain. I feel the truth of what's happening. So I know we'll have some resources that we'll share and we'll be able to put in there. But no, that's super super powerful to know what that means, right? And also the meaning of the 22. Like it's getting more and more real. Yeah, no, we're with Marlon, one of six brothers, served, for the U.S. and served our country. And he's just talking a little bit about growing up with six brothers. Ron's the oldest, or the first one to go to the army.
Ron. So growing up, there was only four of us. We immigrated from Nicaragua in the '80s. We
Hmm.
actually left due to civil unrest. The atmosphere around our country just wasn't the greatest, and our family is huge. My father's side, my mother's side. Um, my father decided it was best to just leave. Everyone in the family was mixed up in the civil unrest one way or another.
Right.
Same sides, different sides. My mother's side of the family was mixed in the groups. They were all over the areas and different sides at some point. Some on some same sides. So it just turned into just a horrible ordeal for both sides of the family. And so my father immigrated in '84 and sent for us to come over in '85. I was 2 years old at the border. Traveled with my brothers Ron, Hyro, and Will, all under the age of 6 or 7 or so. And it was a incredible journey, obviously through stories being told from a mother. Uh, the journey was a long one, but my mother's just the most incredible woman, and made the journey, and we got here. And it's just incredible the I guess the compassion of people in your life, and my father, he befriended some folks in Victoria, Texas, Mr. Juan and Miss Mary Padilla, who have come to be, just the greatest of folks, and our, up, our first real American family that
Hmm.
took us in, and they just started that American dream journey for us. They took us in as their own and provided us a means to be able to thrive here in America. And it was just the start of our American life, and being shown compassion by these folks and taking us in, and you know we made the best of this journey. We grew up here in America. I mean, education wise, uh, all of my brothers have degrees, or the four that I grew up with, me included. Um, and then
What's your
right
degree?
around, I have, well, so my brothers Ron, Hyro, and Will have degrees from U of H. Uh, I think so my journey. I graduated high school like I was supposed to, not exactly in the same realm as my brothers. They were all top 10% of their class. I was the dummy of the group. I was the artistic sports guy. Just made it through high school. I really didn't apply myself. I know I'm fully capable of it, but I skated through high school, and so uh, being the American dream, it was you know it was known your next step is go to college, and I did. I started a semester of college, and then 9/11 happened, and for me, school just was never that big goal in life. Like I wasn't. I knew I wasn't meant to just keep going to school, and 9/11 just kind of it did something to me, and I knew there was like just a bigger and better thing and more important things, almost a calling, because it
You
just
you
changed the
joined
world.
after 9/11.
I joined after 9/11.
That's amazing. Okay.
I spent quite a bit of time trying to convince my mother to just let it happen. The smart one just graduated, which was Ron. He actually ended up I don't know, number 8 or 9 in his class, and so he joined the Navy and left, and then 9/11 happened, and I had to just make her understand this is my journey. I have to join the military as well. This is almost like a repayment of sorts to the country that took us in and gave us a new life. We're under attack, and there's just somebody's got to do it. And so for me, that was the turning point in my life. I knew that it was bigger and better things to do than just go to college and get a degree. And so I signed up. And the first 3 years of my 8 years were active duty in Virginia in transportation unit with the 551st Transportation Company. Um, Unbeknownst to me, logistics, transportation, the most deployable MOS in the military. And so it wasn't too long after I got to my unit that we were first boots on ground. We were in Kuwait 2003 in January. So, you know, there's a lot to be said when you can say I was one of the first 100, maybe even 1,000 in Kuwait, and we literally built the infrastructure of what everybody went through to get into country. Um, it was an amazing thing to see, to be a part of, to look back on and say I did that. And
Hmm.
anybody that came through Kuwait and Camp Erfjan, guess what? I built that place. There was nothing there. There was 14 warehouses when we got there,
Wow.
and we built that whole base up and subsequent fobs leading into Iraq. And so, it's just a incredible journey. Goods, bads,
Right.
amazing with. It just It was a different experience, but I always knew deep down 3 years of my contract, I was going to fulfill my contract, and then I was coming home.
Right.
Um, I owed it to my family to come home,
Well,
and
and we owe
when I
you
did,
everything you've done for us
I
too.
just didn't
So,
realize logistics. It's just going to be an ongoing thing. You're gonna deploy, and by
mhm.
the grace of God, um, you know, I was spared. I got spared out of 4 deployments with my reserve unit, the
Mhm.
369th Transportation here in Houston. But that in itself was just a different journey because I'm in a position of leadership. I'm a sergeant. I'm training these
Right.
kids to do this job. And, I guess I just hadn't come to the realization that mentally I've been changed. I'm dealing with some things, and I don't, I guess, want to come to the realization that something is different, that I'm not who I was before. And, uh, I got to be this strong person to lead these kids into battle and train them up. And if I crumble, then that's going to affect these kids that I'm training. And so, just like I was a kid when I got shipped off, my unit shipped off a bunch of kids and they came back changed. And it's a lingering effect of I
Right.
trained these kids and I didn't go with them.
Mhm.
And maybe it was God's will. I got spared, so there wasn't any further damage to me. But I couldn't spare these kids, and so they come back changed, and there's nothing that I can do to change it. Or I can only try to help them by kind of voicing my same experiences, my what I'm dealing with, and does this help you? Because all together we're all trying to just figure this out uh, together or singularly. Each person's got to deal with what they're dealing with accordingly. And
Right.
so, whatever you're comfortable with, do you seek help? Do you, hide out? What is it that you do? And so
Well,
it's
and I
gotten
think
to
that's
that point now where,
what we're here to do today,
uh,
right? Can
I try
you
to
hear
keep in
me,
contact
Marlon?
with my guys, my kids. Hey, how are you doing? It's okay if you feel this. It it's not shameful. You're not weak. If you need to talk to me, I'm here. In turn, know that at some point I might call on you, and I just whatever you can do to listen, to
Right.
reflect, just be there. And so that's almost like it's the universal community of military folk. Whether you're still wearing the uniform, wore the uniform, or you're always gonna try to be out there and have your buddies back because that's what we do. And so I think that here lately I've had to kind of rely on my guys. I'm no longer their sergeant, but I'm still their brother. And it's just it gets to the point where you do try to seek some kind of help because you have to rely on it. You can't give
Right.
in and become that number. Um, you know, 22 being my favorite number. I was born on the 22nd,
Oh, really?
but it can't happen. I got two little ones that uh, I gotta be here for. I gotta be
Right.
able to walk my little girl down the aisle someday, and I still have to be here to teach my little guy how to be a Southern gentleman, and it just can't happen unless I'm here. So
Right. No, and I think that's kind of what
it's
today's
just
about is,
the way life is now.
yeah, what we want to do is just let these voices be heard.
Yes.
All right, so we're still recording. Ron joined us, but he's in the screen. So, like Ron, you're one of six brothers. You kind of led the charge by going, and serving first. You
Yeah.
know,
So my story is a lot shorter than my brother. I joined like a lot of the people in our community. I joined because we didn't have money for school, and I love the idea of going to school. And I didn't have the faith in myself to get scholarships when I did have the scholarships eventually. But I signed I signed up for the military in November of my senior year, and by May I had a lot of school paid for. But I already made a commitment, and when you make a commitment, you're going in. I joined the military in the Navy as a corpsman. I had a fabulous time in the Great Lakes and in San Diego. I learned all about being an advanced medical lab technician and how to run a blood drive. I had fun, and then I learned that I had an eye disease. I have a really bad, terrible right eyeball, and when you're working with blood and you're working with solvents and solutes and antigens and eye drops that are really tiny, it's going to mess somebody's life up. But I love the idea of being a veteran. I love the idea of having brothers on top of brothers. I mean, I've got brothers for real, and I got other brothers on top of that. It's a new family, and we take care of each other. And that's what my little brother was saying. You know, your family forever. Your family with your Air Force and their Marines, everybody. So today's conversation is about how we take care of each other way beyond being active duty. Even past retirement, I hang out with the guys at the VFW, and these are Vietnam vets, these are World War II vets, and the truth is, a lot of us have similar needs and wants and complaints. We want to be heard. We want to be heard by people who can advocate for us. We want you to call on people in places of power to improve our situation.
Who are those people? Who do you think they should contact?
Well, I'll give a frame of reference because I think a lot of people don't know what Memorial Day is about. Memorial Day happens in May every year, and it's there to be a memorial to those that have passed. Those of us that are alive aren't in that category. We're alive. We haven't passed yet. My brother and I, we go up to the cemetery on Memorial Day once a year. We go visit his brother that's passed, and we place the flags. So Memorial Day is for remembrance. Our other days, like Veterans Day, are to appreciate those veterans, many millions of us that have served this country. So there's a difference. Now, what today is about is I wanted to have this conversation about how to avoid veterans going into the cemetery through depression or suicide because there's lack of care. If we don't get cared for, we will end up in the ground. That's what we're trying to avoid.
And now we're saying this is a time to act. Your brother's been telling us just the hardship, the stories that he's gone through, and just super heartfelt. Marlon, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I'm definitely in the conversation.
Perfect. So tell in that frame of mind, I know you guys are going on to visit some of your brothers. Both it's such a tight group, and it is a day of memory. And I really love the story you were saying about, hey, you want to be there for your kids, right? And so we're creating this to help people know that this is happening. Like, people are not excited about like the trauma they're going through, the trouble they're going through, the service they're getting. Tell us a little bit about what you would like people to know in terms of the day to day, like some of the things that we don't talk about on Memorial Day.
So I think it's kind of important to illustrate the fact that most people don't realize we're still at war. We still have troops all over the world fighting the war on terrorism. For our generation, that's what it is. For older generations, it's just different experiences for different generations, but we all come across almost with the same sense of, is the government really helping us after we've gone through the war machine? You know, for us that have served, who have been to a war zone, war never stops for us. We deal with the effects of being in a foreign country uh, long after we're still home and out of the military, not wearing the uniform anymore. And so it's a never ending battle of uh, reflection of uh, just dealing with what your experiences was and how it affects your life. And I think it just has to be known that you can't be ashamed of what you feel. What you feel is what you feel. No one's going to
Mhm.
feel that, and only people that have been to the same or through the same scenarios or situations would understand. And that's part of the we police ourselves. The biggest help is being able to talk to my brother Ron, or my brothers Donner and my sister Lindsay. They feel some of these same experiences. It's a daily battle of fighting these demons off so that you don't become uh, a headstone down at Houston National.
Right.
Um, you know, for Memorial Day, it's gotten to that point where it's got to be voiced. We need help so that more of us aren't in the ground prematurely.
Hmm.
Um, those battles wage uh, just different for different folks, and some deal with it more so around this time frame. I'm sure that my guys think about Memorial Day more so often because of our brother, Sergeant First Class Carlos Avila. That's there. For us, Sergeant Avila was uh, the biggest rock for our unit. He was the greatest leader from the standpoint that he wasn't 100% military. He was that big brother that could break things down to the simplest forms to the lonely private, and he was a big uh, religious icon. Like it didn't matter what we brought to the table, he always had a means to interject religion and just break it down.
Right.
Just
He was there for you guys.
uh, like nobody else could be.
Hmm.
And so for us, that was just the biggest shock when news got around that he became one of the 22. It was the least likeliest guy that any one of us would have thought that would have been it.
Hmm.
And so that in itself kind of lingers in most of our minds, that were we there enough for him? Did we do enough to take some of the stress, the bear, the weight of whatever it was that he was dealing with off his shoulders? And being in a position of leadership, I know that we carry a lot of stress, not only for our well-being and what we deal with, but ensuring that our guys have that support system of you're not alone. Whatever you're going through, you have a support system. And so, that's why Memorial Day is just so important to remember these guys, these gals that have come before us, who continue to come, who will lead the battle from the forefront and continue to do what we did to make this country what it's supposed to be.
Well, and I think beyond just remembering, I think what I'm hearing is Memorial Day should also be a day for us to remember everybody that has helped us, because they could also be needing our help, especially now in
Oh yeah.
this, this world, this new way of living is so stressful to, to a different population, that we're forgetting to really reach out. So I really appreciate you guys just sharing that story and the connection. Ron, like, we'll put some of the resources of how people can like reach out, and you know I do believe that this is the time to act. So Ron, do you want to add something to tie it all together?
Yeah. So I'm a teacher. This is what I do. I teach, and I think a lot of people don't know the steps it takes to make real change. The step one, what we're doing right now is giving you information. The VA system, Veteran Administration, is designed to help veterans. I'm a vet. My brother's a vet. All my other brothers and sisters are veterans. And when we go, we're neglected. It takes months to get an appointment. When you get an appointment, you still sit there all day. And when you sit there all day, your medicine or your services aren't up to par. It's not the best services. I should be getting medical services for my eye, but I choose not to because the doctors that see me aren't the best. And their services aren't the best. My brother's knees hurt and his services for his knees aren't getting fixed. When we leave the VA, every time we go, we're frustrated. I don't know any vet that's ever left the VA says, oh my God, that was the best service ever. I'm feeling better. Right. So what we're asking you is to, one, figure out who your representatives are. You are represented by many representatives, your local representatives and your national representatives. Figure out who they are. Send them a message like, hey, what are you doing for veterans? Can it be fixed? Can their services be made faster? Can their services be made better? Can their services be increased? Why do we have to wait so long? Are we waiting so long that veterans are committing suicide because they're not getting serviced? So you have the day off. You have the day off today. Today is the day to remember the veterans gone. Today, send them a message. Every single representative has a Twitter, has a Facebook. Tag them. Let them know veterans are dying because the VA doesn't work. That's the bottom line. The VA doesn't work enough for us. So we're going to provide you links to figure out how to know who your representative are. Send them a message, send them an email, send them a Twitter, send them a Snapchat, Instagram them, DM them. Let them know that there's veterans like my brother, Marlon Castro, who's alive today, and I love it. But if he's ever gone because the VA did not act, like my family's be devastated. And there's families already that have already gone through this. They're already devastated past tense. They're already having to go to the cemetery to visit their loved ones because they're gone. That's a reality.
Right.
I asked Gabe to make this call today because my brother called me 2 days ago and said, hey, I don't feel good. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist or any of that. But I do know that when things get better, the system has to get better so the people can get better. We all improve. And I don't want Memorial Day to ever be a day that I have to remember my brother that left early. I'm going to hold on to him until I go before him because I'm going to be like 105. That's what we want you to do.
That does run in our family.
I hope so.
Man, such a timely message. Such a beautiful story, guys. No, anything I can do to help. Thank you for sharing this story with us. And you know, we really thank you for your service. Thank you for your brotherhood. Thank you for sharing your story because you are providing a service now more than ever. Because telling your story is going to resonate, you know, and we don't want that 22, right? We want that to go down to 0. And support and contact and having people being heard is kind of like the foundation of healing. So, you know, again, thank you for your service and thank you for joining us. And thank you, Ron, for reaching out. And Marlon, again, thank you for really letting me understand what it's about.
Thank you for having us, Gabe.
Yep. Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
You know, myself, being where I am at mentally today, I think it would really kind of hit home to say to other veterans out there, you know, you are needed. You are still one. You might feel broken like I do, and I'm still struggling day to day, but you are still needed. And at the end of the day, you have to figure out how to still stick around and make it work because you are loved, you're needed, and you're still you, no matter how hard it is on a daily basis. But you are still you. And so it's just a matter of figuring out how to go and make it to the next day. And we can do it. You just have to mentally prepare to fight that battle. So it can be done.
Can be done.
Can be done, guys. Thank you so much for those words. And thank you for your service.
Yeah, have a good day.